I'm Miles Davis, a horror author of 9 terrifying books that will forever change your outlook on life. Join me today as I discuss a few things that have been on my mind so far this week. With the writing of my recent post on my site yesterday, and being able to enjoy the warmth of the summer that is yet upon us, I decided why not have some fun. So I decided to look deep within my soul as I was writing yesterday. I reached the 4,000 word mark on my 10th book, which is actually quite a big feat, as I've been living with some self-doubt of my abilities. If you hear me gasping or it sounds like I'm gasping or anything like that, I'm really not. I'm just really nervous talking. It's like I like doing it, but I'm just so nervous over it for some reason. So it's kind of a bothersome issue with me. Not really. It's annoying, really, because it feels like I'm talking too fast, and then I'm like gasping for air while I talk. It's nothing like that. Something like that. You know what I'm saying. But anyways, thank you for joining me here today. This is my 3rd video on this channel, and I want to thank you all for joining me here. I want to thank everybody for coming on down from my website, milesdavisauthor.com, I may add. The link will be in the description below, with a link to my latest book, or one of my books, I should say. You could read them or whatever. It's up to you guys, but I would love to hear your feedback. So, earlier I've been thinking a lot about my time as a writer. Though it has been pretty short, it is one of the few things that I'm actually quite proud of. Next to not starving to death, not freezing to death, and not being eaten by chuds. That is one of my biggest accomplishments ever. And it's one of those few things in life that really gets you going is being an artist. Creating fantastical stories, fantasy elements, horror elements, being able to look into another world as if you could actually see everything happening as it is. Almost like how God must feel if God may or may not exist. I don't know. I'm not a specialist on that matter. But it's one of the few things that I'm able to actually sit down and relax and enjoy. After a hard shift at work yesterday, I actually sat down and watched Hell's Kitchen Season 7. And it was actually a very enjoyable viewing. It's not every day that I watch Hell's Kitchen, though I am kind of on this Gordon Ramsay kick lately, so I have that playing in the background, and I just start writing, I write about people that I see. I'm an avid people watcher. It is a wonderful experience for me to sit down and actually watch people at work or going about their lives. Not in a weird way or anything like that, but, with the whole restrictions and everything like that being lifted, it's enjoyable to actually sit down and, or walk around and, see people in their everyday surroundings, It's one of the few things that is actually relaxing to me. Excuse me. I'm drinking some soda. Anyways, it's one of the few things that I actually really enjoy is being able to sit down and enjoy my life with myself and everything else that has to come from it. I've been having a lot of weird dreams lately, too. A lot of weird dreams. I actually had this really odd dream. What was it? A couple days ago, where I actually felt as if I was living in a small town, like a no nonsense town. Think about the Lost Souls, that small little piece of heaven on earth. The quiet main street. Everybody smiles at one another. Everybody waves and says good morning. Everybody who gathers outside of a church, it's a town like that. So I'm having this dream, right? And I quit my job in this dream, and I'm like, you know what, Mr. Charleston, and well, that was the boss's name. Yeah, I think it was like a home appliance store, and I was like, you know what, I quit. I'm going into the television repair business. And I went into a television repair shop, and I I got hired on, and I was repairing old black and white tube TVs. And I was actually kind of taken aback by this. I was actually like, what's going on, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm watching it all unfold right before my very eyes. Some kind of like weird, like outer body experience, So I pretty much gave up on selling items and went into the television repair business. And then from there on in, I was actually quite happy driving around in a van, going to people's houses and repairing their TVs. Now, this is like early 1950s. And it was honestly the most surreal thing I've ever had happen to me in a dream. My dreams are pretty boring if you can't tell. I like to actually dream of being able to be other people and live their lives. And for whatever reason, my mind just allows me to keep on doing this. And I feel like ever since I put them down on paper, these dreams have become more frequent and more of a creative element to my stories. Because in every element of my storytelling abilities, you'll see from everything from the lost souls, for Allison, the harvest, especially the harvest. There's actually quite a funny story about the harvest. If you haven't read the harvest, I suggest you do so. Because it's honestly one of my favorite stories. And in the harvest, it's about a guy who uncovers the truth about an agricultural cult that takes hold in this town, and always around the harvest, they will commit the act of human sacrifice. And this group of people who have been in this town, their families have been in this town since it was founded practically, have been doing this ritual day in and day out. Keeping the blood flowing on the fields so they have a good crop. And a lot of people think that's kind of weird, but in reality, stuff like this has been happening since the dawn of time. From every first world country to every third world country has had someone or some group of people do this, because in the old ideologies and the ancient religions, you have to give a sacrifice to the gods to appease them so that you could have a good harvest, so you can live on for another season or another year. And then you could move on and procreate and grow as a people and, just build up, build up, build up. It reminds me of what is it? Like, I think they talked about it in the movie Apocalypto. It's the sacrificing, right? Nowadays, sacrificing isn't really, a big ticket seller these days, I guess, in the farming industry. I live in Alberta, and every summer you see this huge, vast sea of wheat or canola. And, when I used to live in Ontario when I was a kid, you see large fields of wheat or corn, It was one of the few things that I've always found to be actually quite fascinating. It actually takes me back a lot, because I used to love hearing about how people would cross that line, I guess, which back in those days was the norm, right? You can't get angry at these people for following their traditions or their ancient beliefs that stem further the past than that of the Catholic Church. And, the Catholic Church is kind of like the great equalizer of bullcrap. It is the most hypocritical organization on the planet. Now, I'm not saying that just to attack Catholics whatsoever. I'm really not, right? Because the people are good, but the organization itself is pretty sleazy. I can do without it. And that goes with pretty much anything that exists to hold down people from being their true selves and expressing themselves freely. Now, what I mean by that, because I don't want to get it construed in any other way, but, within the limits of the law. I don't want people breaking the law and going about it and, it being like the purge or something like that. No. I mean, like, if you're gay, the Catholic Church used to do it like every other big religion at that time did, it was try to oppress those people, and that's not right. You should let them be who they are and so whatsoever. But with artists, though, like much like philosophers at the time, a lot of them got censored, and a lot of the people who got censored were true creative geniuses. Now, if you look at somebody like Nostradamus, for instance, I don't know. I'm not a huge believer in Nostradamus because for the sole purpose is that it could be taken into uh, any direction. It's it reminds me of the Bible almost, right? It's like he has all these predictions, right? And but they're very blanketed predictions. And at the end of the day, it comes down to the fact that you're looking at it and it's like, well, that could have meant anything, right? No, there's this thing about what is it? The German power will rise up in Europe or whatever, and it had the name has an H in it. Well, it's like what 25, 1 out of 25. I don't know where I'm going with that, but that's it's very a very blanketed uh, belief system, and it's to be honest with you, living in small towns and seeing how people act and seeing how these people behave in their own societies, it really opens up and it really allows you to see what the world is truly like. It's almost scary in a way to see the hive mentality of it all just come out, right for the pickings. You see it all the time, and it's just crazy how programmable people are, and you find a lot of that in the books that I write, and a lot of times in the genre of horror itself. You have the one person who is seen as somebody who looks at the world, from outside the looking glass, from outside that glass pane window, looking into a shop almost, and everybody else is just mannequins, right? And the people that are going out and moving the mannequins are the people that are really in charge, so they can control them any way they want. So you have people who are constantly living in a state of fear, people who just want to return to the normalcy of their lives. You see this in the creation of all these great stories, right? You see it in Nightmare on Elm Street. You see it in The Thing. You see it on Aliens. Aliens, the one with Paul Reiser, who, in my opinion, is a comedic genius. All right, I love Paul Reiser; he's funny. But you see this lot of like this herd mentality, like, yeah, we're gonna get him, and yeah, we gotta kill him. And in the end, it's like, well, no, there is no winning in it. There is no victory. There's no celebration. Most likely, you will die. In these scenarios, and that's why I can't watch Jason movies anymore, and I can't watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre or any of the mainstream horror films like that, like Friday the 13th. In Friday the 13th, it's going to happen. The main antagonist, always comes back, and the lead always survives. Nightmare on Elm Street, the whole group of friends dies except for that one person, and it's only that one person has some kind of mild connection to it that they build up for the next movie. And Jason kills a bunch of people, and then at the end one person or a few people kill Jason, and it's most likely in the most anticlimactic way possible. You look at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, it's always going to be a few people most of the time. Like even with the original one and the next generation, and I guess all the recent remakes. I haven't seen the new one, but these people all wind up dying in a group, and one person survives to tell the tale. Except for part 2 and part 3, they weren't teenagers or in college; they were just ordinary people. I think the third one, the guy did go to college. But in the long run of things, everything happens there for a reason. And it's just to keep pumping out crap after crap, and it just gets boring and boring and boring. Like, I don't even enjoy watching modern, horror movies from mainstream studios. I actually like watching the horror films with heart. And if, well, I don't know how many people here know me though, but by what I mean by that is that the horror films from smaller studios or from even a handful of people that like to go out and have fun, right? Like I'm actually on a real kick now about watching East Indian films that are like uplifting, uplifting pieces of film. Like, I forget the name of this movie I watched, but it was about this teacher and she had Tourette's. And nobody wanted to hire her because she had Tourette's. But in the movie itself, the little girl wants to become a teacher because the principal of the school she transferred to saw that she had Tourette's and wanted to, make her feel, acceptable to everybody because I guess all the kids are picking on her. And, it's stuff like that that really kind of turns your attention to what other people are doing and what other countries are doing to make great art. Basically anything in North America is mass produced by corporations and by talentless hacks that are just in it for a quick buck. And so they try to stretch out their grasp on everything so it covers every topic or every group, and it often fails. And then they're left looking like idiots. But in that case, I think then it's just a giant insurance scam. But that's something I'll talk about at a different episode or maybe on my blog post or something like that. But it's these different storytelling elements that actually just tell a story from point A to point B, and if they're feeling actually quite great, there's these little detours in it, and maybe one goes into a C plot, and and it just leads to something quite funny. But with a lot of this stuff, you gotta take it as it is, and that's why I really, really harp on the ability to tell a good story and to have great character development. And you see this on my blog posts. Like, I keep talking about it, because often heroes will always fail. And you can't change the future because those in power will never allow somebody from the outside to change anything if it means threatening their positions. But you can use that by the means of telling a great story. You could see this by telling a great story, as long as it sticks true to as realistic as possible. It's great to have, a story about robots or something like that, If you're going to have stories about robots and leprechauns and aliens and swamp things and Frankenstein monsters and Batman and, creatures from the Black Lagoon and all this other stuff, you really need to have sellable characters. You need to have a believable hero, a believable main character, and supporting characters along the way. You can't have just be like this one-dimensional character as the hero because everything they do, they succeed, and they don't need nobody else to help them. It's just foolish, and it leads to a very boring story and just dried substance. And then all of a sudden, nobody wants to go watch somebody else's movie based on that topic or genre because you scared them away because you wanted to be greedy and be a giant octopus in the markets. And you see a lot of that. And that's why someone like myself, I just get really turned off by everything that's mainstream. And I go out and I support the local artists, the local writers and poets and artists and painters and voice actors and singers and all that stuff, because that's where the real talent is. The real talent isn't on the screen of some big studio production or a book that cost $10 million to make and it was written by a committee or a has-been. But the publishing house, promotes the crap out of it. They'll throw like $10 million at this thing. They'll pay somebody off to have buzz about a movie deal or a trilogy or something like that. And it just really, really destroys it. And it just really makes it boring. Like, I can never read another Stephen King book. Because after he got cleaned up with the coke and booze, like he's not good anymore. Maximum Overdrive, that was a great movie, Cujo, that was a good book and a good movie. Pet Sematary 2, a fantastic book, The movie's great. In my profession, the movie is classic. I love the movie. It's really, really good. You got Edward Furlong, you got some mom who's dead and tries to kill him. I don't know. It's pretty stupid if you think about it. The whole plot. of Pet Sematary is pretty stupid. And then they made a remake, and I couldn't even watch it. Like 5 minutes into it, I'm like, dude, this is horrible. Like, what am I doing with my life? And then I got up out of the theater, and I went to go eat some rotisserie chicken. Because I got to eat. I might be poor, living off the land, but I still got to eat. Which doesn't make any sense, because then how was I able to afford to see the movie? But anyways, it was a terrible film. They got to stop remaking all this garbage, especially Stephen King, because he's honestly quite terrible in my opinion. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for that, but you know what? It is my opinion, and it is what it is. Like I didn't hate him in the beginning. Hell, I even like The Langoliers, for God's sakes. I love that TV movie. Oh, that was a great movie. Rose Red, whatever. But it's just one of those things that just really irks me, is that people just have to stop paying attention to people like that, because then that'll make them want to create something more. That'll kick them off of cruise control, and when you start going out and talking about your politics and stuff like that, you're free to do so if you will, but don't go out there, and use everything in your possible grasp to share your political beliefs, because there you just alienated half or a good chunk of your viewers or readers or whatever, or fans. And a lot of people are going to get pretty TO'd. And you know what? I know a lot of people are like, whoa, I don't care if people get TO'd. Well, those people are paying your bills. You could have opinions, you could have everything else, but you don't have to go out there on your own, under your own name or your own identity, and actually go out and do this and drive away customers, But I guess, people have this sense of, they matter. Which people do matter to an extent. Nobody is better than anybody else, and everybody gets replaced. It's just the way life is. You can't escape death. You can't escape the fact that you'll sabotage your life most likely and wind up failing and taking it out on yourself. It's just what happens. It's you get dealt the hand you get dealt. You can never change the hand you got dealt. If you're dying and you cryogenically freeze yourself, the odds are that the power goes out, the generator will run out of fuel, and you'll just turn into a pile of slop with a skeleton exposed. That's all I'm trying to say. But as if tomorrow will end and no one will remember you, live your life the best and create something better than anyone else, so that you'll live on in the memories of everybody who's ever seen your work. And that's what matters the most, is touching those souls, touching the people's souls and lives, and changing them maybe just in one little minute way, that the world around them will forever be seen as slightly different in a positive light. But anyways, that's it for now. I believe the next video I'm going to do next week will be that on me reading an excerpt from one of my favorite books. It'll be my new book, Book 10, which will be out probably in a month and a half. I am working on formatting, getting a buddy of mine to help format my books for paperback. And before you start saying, buying physical copies of books is really expensive, I understand it is. That's why I like keeping all my book prices at $5, so I can only make 30-something cents, I think it is. 35, not even 35 cents a copy. I know, a lot of people charge, $10 for their books or $20 for their books, but I just want to get my stuff out there. If you ever want to support me, just go out and buy my books, support local artists and local authors and writers and painters, and just go out there and support the little fellas. That would mean the world to me. There will also be a link to my Amazon books selection, I guess, where you can find all my books. There'll be a link to my Twitter account. You can drop me a line. I'll be more than happy to talk. Don't forget to subscribe, come join the Facebook group, and I'll see you all in the future. If you've made it this far in the video, let me just say thank you very much. You mean the world to me. And if you type in the comments section the secret word, which is salamander, I will give you a shout out on my next video. But I doubt anybody's listened this far. So that's the secret word of the day. Anyways, good night, God bless, and I'll see you all in the future. Miles Davis out.